Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. What areas do West Ham need to strengthen and which players need to leave the club? I'm going to be talking about that and much more with JP from JPWHU TV, Marshy from West Ham Fan TV and Corey from the West Ham Way. If you are new to our channel, please subscribe to us, follow us on the socials and let us know your comments in the comment section below. Hope you enjoy it. Let's go. Well, guys, thanks for joining us today. Obviously, West Ham need to improve in a lot of areas, but some positions are more of a priority than others. So, we'll start with you, JP. In your opinion, what positions are more of a priority for you?
Well, this is the tricky one, mate. Because as far as I'm concerned, every single position out there is a priority. The only place we're really all right for is the bench. Quite frankly, we've got a goalkeeper that's coming up to the end of his contract in a year, 18 months time. So we've and he's not a spring chicken either, for that matter. But I've been screaming for the last season or so is we need two left backs, definitely. It's great having Stuart Pearce back at the club again, so he can give them a real overhaul from what Creswell and Masuaku have been doing. But as only at the same point, the right wing is the right wing back or full back, whichever way you want to look at it, is a priority as well. Only West Ham can have 4 right backs in one season. Only West Ham, and that's the big worry for me. Centre back still. I think we need somebody to come in and cover that. Left wing, we could do with reinforcing. It's not that much a priority. Box to box midfielder, 100%. As good as Souček is, I'd rather keep him in as a holding midfielder rather than trying to ping him from box to box. Right wing, I say the left and the right wings we're pretty much all right for, but it's just everywhere else. Strikers, definitely 2 strikers, 100%. I've been saying that all of last season. 2 strikers.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Marshy, what about you, mate?
Well, I tend to agree with JP. I think the 2 fullbacks I think are a big problem. They seem to be come under a lot of scrutiny sort of the last year or so. Not as good as what they know they can be. However, you'd argue that players that we seem to be dipping in for are ones that may have come from the Championship. Your Aaron Cresswell, your Fredericks, your Antonios, and seem to have proven himself at the start. And obviously Mickey's still doing that. But I think them 2 are a big problem. I think hopefully we can, strengthen or at least give them a bit of competition if they're not going to go. Give them something to think about. I think obviously the striking setup is, as we well know, I think it's more of a negativity sort of based option on the match day when we're going to one up top. I think, but then again, we don't have anyone realistically to partner Haller. So I'm hoping that that we reinforce there. I think away from Haller, we only have that Xande Silva, is it? I think, and with no disrespect, I think we need, sort of maybe Premier League proven quality or maybe bigger names as such if we are going to, and it all depends, Bill. I said before, like we're going to either make a point of, making up the numbers in this league, or are we really going to try and push for maybe a European qualification spot and whatever. But I think that'll time will tell with that. I think we've still got a little while in the window. So, but yeah, definitely both fullbacks and the striker, I think, is a bigger priority. Maybe even the goalkeeper situation. Give Fabianski something to think about. Randolph maybe is not. Maybe a bit of a panic buy and whatever. Coming back in, maybe a bit more of an obvious one. Not really any thought behind it. So maybe in time there as well. But for me, I think it's the 2 fullbacks and the striker, definitely.
And Corey, what about you, mate? I enjoyed your video on the West Ham Way YouTube channel a couple of days ago about the lack of spending in the fullback areas is such a vital part of modern day football, and we've barely spent any money in those positions in the last decade, you could say. Pep Guardiola, after his first season, he didn't buy 1 fullback; he bought 4 of them. That shows how important it is in today's football. So I'm not saying we should do that, but it shows that it's a vital area, attacking and obviously defending as well. So would you say the fullbacks are important or the most important?
Yeah, I'd have to say so. I think Creswell for a couple of seasons now has been sort of steadily declining. I think sort of when we come back after Project Restart, he was a real problem area, you know, against Burnley in particular. You know, him and Frederick seem to struggle against teams that try and get balls in the box and use a lot of width. And we will get picked off next season if we have them too. For me, starting in the side. Now, I think we're looking at people like Rico Henry from Brentford to come in. He'd be a great signing at left back if we could afford him. I can't believe I'm saying we can afford him because he's 10 million. We should have 10 million kicking around somewhere. You look at Fredericks as well. He's good going forward, but I suppose he hasn't got the quality of delivery, and defensively his pace helps him out a lot. So for me, I think, you know, we've spoken about it with the quality of the wingers and some of the midfielders. You know, you could look at Anderson and argue that if he'd had a solid, you know, fullback behind him, he could have pushed on throughout this season, and we wouldn't be giving him the same level of stick. So for me, I think a lot of the issues come down to the fullbacks. I think the strikers, you know, we've been really dealing with just Allaire and Antonio up front. Antonio, for me, does a great job, but he's not a natural striker. And you even saw in the Villa game, you know, some of his finishing's off. So we're going to have to get at least two up front for me. You know, I would have loved us to have got Ollie Watkins and started looking at him, maybe to partner with Allaire and give us a different look. But I can see Moisey going for those defensive reinforcements. Obviously, wants to bring in a centre-back as well. So I don't think we're going to see a striker unless someone like Lanzini or Anderson go.
Yeah, good point, mate. Yeah, I think I agree with you boys. I think fullbacks are a really important area for us to improve. I think possibly another centre half and a forward. And I think even central midfield as well, because obviously Sanchez has left. Noble's not getting any younger. You know, we need someone else alongside, you know, Rice and Souček. I mean, Snodgrass can play in the middle, but he's not a natural there. So I think that's someone we can look at as well. I mean, let's talk about some of the players we've been linked with. I mean, centre-half wise, the three we've mainly been linked with Shane Duffy from Brighton, John Stones from Man City, Phil Jones, Man United. I mean, are those the calibre of centre-backs that we should be looking at? Marshall, we start with you, mate.
I think, well, John Stones obviously has got that link with Moores from the Everton days, hasn't he? So I think they seem to have a built relationship already. I think Stones may be quite a good fit. I think, you know, the experience that he's had under Moores initially, and then obviously moving on to City with Guardiola, the times that he has sort of played, and when he got that role at the, you know, when they signed him initially for the 50 million or whatever it was from Everton, I think he was going out all guns blazing and proving that he was quite a solid centre half, you know, and obviously also able to sort of utilise him a little bit, sort of in, you know, maybe a Declan Rice sort of role that we play now in front of the back four. So that could be a bit of a commander of a fella at the back. Shane Duffy, I think maybe again, I don't know really. Jury's out of him. I mean, I think he does well when he plays for Brighton, but if he's not able to be in their team at the moment, or if he's not good enough to be in their team, I mean, how good is he? Hence, you know, maybe being able to sort out another loan with a view to a permanent deal, which will be sort of right up West Ham Street, won't it? You know?
Sorry to interrupt, Marshall. I think with Duffy, I think he'd do for a season or two. I don't think long term he's for us. But
I think
he's
a couple
got
of years maybe.
Premier League experience, I think, for now.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think maybe just to fill that gap for a little while, whilst we, you know, maybe look for a more permanent feature in that area. Phil Jones, I'm not having at all. You know, I think it's he's not. I guess he's proven at this level. Obviously, he's been at United for a lot of years, but he's not going to be somebody that, you know, you want maybe like a leader at the back, like, you know, just like Ogbonna has been a revelation since the Project Restart, and you know, you want someone not too dissimilar to that in order to build up another relationship, which I think, in fairness, Ogbonna and Diop do share at the moment. But I think with the media sort of linking Diop with sort of 2 or 3 clubs I've been reading lately. You know, obviously, if there is another centre-half to come in, maybe it may be the end of Diop, who knows? But obviously, you know, there's going to be a few names linked there, and he's going to have to obviously make a couple of decisions. But I'd like to see Stones. I think that would be ideal. Duffy, again, I like. Could be a good addition, like you say, a couple of years at least, while we look for a more, you know, beneficial signing for us. But obviously, I think I'd leave Phil Jones well alone.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that, mate. I mean, Corey, what about you, mate? As well as those 3 centre-halves I've mentioned, you know, you mentioned Rico Henry, left back for Brentford, and the right back areas we've been linked with, you know, Darlow and Fosu Mensah on loan from Man United. I mean, would any of those defenders, would you be happy with if we were to get any of them?
Yeah, mate. I've done a little bit of analysis on Rico Henry, and I've watched him obviously in the playoff final. He would be perfect for West Ham. You know, he's athletic, he gets forward, he gets back quickly. You know, he supports the winger. He would just give us another element. And like I said in the videos, it's all about having a defender that can, you know, offer a lot going forward. And in modern day football, that's perfect fit. I mean, you talk about people like Fosu-Mensah. I think he got pulled off when we played United, so I'm not massively sold on him coming to West Ham. I think we can't look at fullbacks that are struggling for form, or someone like Fosu-Mensah who's going to need 10, 15 games maybe to sort of get into his rhythm. We need someone to sort of hit the ground running. And it's like when you mentioned Shane Duffy, you know, all right, albeit he hasn't played a lot of games for Brighton, he's someone that knows the league. You know, I wouldn't see him starting over a Bonner or Diop, but
he's a good backup in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he'll slot in, he'll do a job. I think with Graham Potter doesn't fancy him because he can't play out from the back as well as Webster and Dunk. So
playing Webster, I think, instead.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they're just better on the ball. So it's a difficult one. I would like Duffy to come in as just squad depth, really. I just think he would offer something. If you can get him on the loan, I think that's a good deal for us. Yeah,
fair enough. JP, what about you, mate?
Out of the three, John Stones is my number one for that completely. Wages will probably obviously be quite a big stumbling block for him. But as much as Phil Jones irritates me, I can see the link between the two. I can really, really see it. Jones is hated by a lot of supporters, probably more to do with the fact when he got Faguli sent off during that Man United at home game. I think, you know, his stock went down quite a fair bit with us lot in that game. But Shane Duffy, I can see. I agree with you guys. It completely back up replacement for Balbuena, possibly if he gets sold. I can't see him being the stalwart in the defence. So for me personally, Corey, as you're saying, mate, you know, out of the three, the ball player, the leader is John Stones, but I've got a funny feeling out of the three we'll likely see Duffy.
We'll see what happens. I think I'd certainly take Duffy as a backup. John Stones, I'd have. I think he's, you know, lost that confidence, but you know, I think there is a player in there. And I agree with you, Corey. I think Rico Henry would be a good signing for us. Fits the younger profile of player that we're looking to try and attract. And right back, I think I'd actually play Ben Johnson from the start next season, and then maybe get Darlow or someone like that on loan as a backup. That's sort of what I'd go for. So in terms of the forward areas, you know, the players we were linked with, Volley Watkins, looks like that's not going to happen now, according to X on the West Ham Way podcast. But the other names linked, Fabio Bruni, I think that's a no-go in my opinion, lads. And Callum Wilson, obviously not very popular West Ham fans, but he's a good forward. So what do you about those strikers we've been linked with? Start with you, Corey, first on this one.
I just think, yeah, you're right. Barini's a no-go for me. It's a bit of an easy way out, isn't it? You know, he's got that link with Moyes. It seems like a lot of players we're linked with are kind of Moyes has had in his team at some point.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think Barini can cut it in the Premier League anymore. He's not physically that great, and he's not going to offer what, you know, Allaire and Antonio would do up front. So for me, that's a no-go. Who was the other striker you mentioned?
Watkins we were linked with. I don't think that's happened. And Callum Wilson, obviously.
Callum Wilson's an interesting one because, we hate him and obviously all of his, you know, handball magic and all that kind of stuff. But he's a good player when he's fit, you know, and he does score goals in the league. But I think for West Ham, you know, this transfer window, we're not going to spend a lot of money. If you bring in Wilson for 20 mil, there's no guarantee that it will be consistently, you know, fit throughout the season. You know, and we can't rely on a striker that's going to have a bit of an Andy Carroll situation where he sort of plays a few games, goes off, and it's not going to be good for us. And I think we're not going to have too many players come in, so we want to have that consistency in the first team.
Yeah, fair enough. JP, what do you think, mate?
Personally, we need a striker or two that can help bridge the gap between Allaire and Antonio. We need somebody that can sit back in an attacking midfield role if needed, stroke the second striker, which I know, you know, Boeing is capable of doing. But we need some real strong guns up front. It's been a bugbear of mine, to say the least, this season, when we took Allaire from a front three and played him on it for the majority of the season on his own. You know, it's to be honest with you, I wouldn't say no to Callum Wilson. I think he's a guy, as he said, he's a top player, and we hate him because of how he plays against us. But if we had him, we would absolutely love him. I honestly think we would absolutely love the bloke. Likewise, possibly even having Troy Deeney. I know it's a bit controversial between us lot at the moment, but you know, he's a player that you absolutely hate to have play against you. But I reckon we would love if he played for us. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen now because him being the lifelong with Watford and everything. But we need somebody that's going to absolutely mix it up, give Allaire the support that he needs, give him his confidence back, and like you say, have an Andy Carroll type that can play off him. Totally, that's what we need.
Yeah, absolutely. And Marsh, as well as those forwards, obviously we've been with Eze from QPR as well. I mean, if we were to get him in, do you think that would be a good addition to our squad?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I agree with all you gents just listening there. I think, you know, I agree with Corey on the basis of the Wilson thing. You know, obviously it's hard, isn't it? Because I think if you signed him for, say, 20 million and he started banging in a few goals and showed that consistency that we're maybe not used to with the likes of Andy Carroll, then he's going to be a sort of cult hero, and everyone's going to love him, everyone's going to back him. You forget what's happened before, and hopefully with a Wilson, I would definitely take, and you would just have to sort of live in hope that he could maintain consistency and, you know, maybe not pick up an injury that's going to keep him out for a little while. I did hear something floating about the Luka Jovic thing, you know, maybe with Haller even going and him coming in, which obviously is a no-go situation. You know, you want that to be the link, don't you? Like, you know, Haller's clearly used to, as JP rightly said, playing in the free at Frankfurt and then coming over to West Ham and, you know, not really having that sort of link or go-between, if you like, in that 10 role, maybe a Lanzini or an Anderson when we've been on song and playing very well. It'll be interesting to see. I think Ollie Watkins would have fit a bill pretty well. Seems to be obviously proven goal scorer in, you know, in the first tier of football. Obviously, I've said for a while now, I've made it sort of well documented as well, in my opinion, that you can't just walk into the Premier League. Like, you know, you need to adjust to it. You need to, you know, get to know your team, gel the players, play to their strengths as well in order to get the best out of them. So I would definitely take Wilson. I think that the QPR boy, Eze, would be... I actually watched some clips of him tonight on the way back from work. He seemed to be banging in goals a bit like Watkins, and even at Ben Rama, I think we was dealt with at the start as well, the other Brentford striker. So, yeah, it'd be interesting, obviously, that I would take Wilson, I'll take Eze. But it's just the thing circulating around the money, you know, do they have some funds, do they not? Is it a case of having to sort of out the deadwood, if you like, or, you know, passengers, for want of a better word, and then we can sort of get going. I've had, you know, discussions leading up to now with JP quite a lot currently to suggest that I believe I'm one of those that, you know, would like to get players in as soon as possible.
Discussion's an understatement, mate, isn't it, eh?
Yeah, discussion is an understatement. Yeah, it's more of a real in-depth, a bit like what we, which is good. Like, you know, everyone's views and opinions and stuff. I just think that we need to, you know, get players in as soon as possible, understand what the current situation is, and deal with whatever we can deal with moving forward in order to, you know, sort of right the wrongs of last season. And, you know, we need to try and sort of kick on. So, yeah, you know, Watkins, Eze, Wilson, as long as it's someone like that, you know, not that it wouldn't be, but, you know, we don't want another curse, like Corey said, with Carroll and people that are inconsistent. You know, we want a striker that could potentially get you 15, 20 goals, playing in the right team, playing in the right structure, strategies, you know, formations. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Okay, so we talked about the players that have been linked with the club, but, you know, like a lot of Premier League sides, we've got a lot of deadwood in our squad, on high wages, underperforming players that we need to get rid of. So the main players that I think we're looking to move on are, you know, Felipe Anderson, Manuel Lanzini, Jordan Hugill, Arthur Masuaku, Fabian Balbuena, Roberto. So, JP, out of those names and possibly any others you can think of, which players should we try hard to get rid of?
All of them, quite frankly. Plus, I mean...
So what do you mean, mate?
Well, you asked my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, no, that's fine.
we need to have players that are going to be playing for the badge, not for the wallet again. You know, players like as much as I've loved Manuel Lanzini over the last 5-6 years that we've had him now. You know, because he obviously came in loan for a couple of seasons before signing on the permanent before we left this last season at the Bowling. But if they're not stepping up, they're not stepping up. As simple as that. I mean, I hate to say it, but yeah, Anderson, Lanzini, Balbuena, Masuaku, lesser extent Creswell, Yarmolenko, Roberto definitely. Where else? Where are we looking at here? So those are the calls that spring to mind. Is like Hugh Gill as well. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk over the last couple of days about where his future is lying at the minute. You know, and maybe even, I hate to say it, but maybe even try and sell some of the fringe juniors to try and raise a bit of cash as well. I mean, if we're gonna be selling our fringe league players for tuppence, I mean, how much
Cullen,
we get for the
players
juniors?
like
Say again?
Josh Cullen, players like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because Cullen's at the right age. Either we tie him down to a proper contract or we sell him.
Yeah.
You know, and likewise with to a lesser extent Connor Coventry as well, for that matter. You know, just need to try and get as much money as we possibly can, because whatever's happened to the money that we've been getting over the last couple of seasons, they're going to need to try and raise as much cash as quickly as possible. But that it looks like we're not going to happen. It's not going to happen because the money from Ayeti and the potential money that we could have for selling Hugo as of the time of this recording, half of that is going back to Frankfurt to pay for Alai's wages. So Alai's fee. So, you know, it's a catch-22. Again, every single season we get into this, doesn't matter how much money we get in, and we just get into this cycle every single season.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I should be used to it, but fortunately we're not. So, Marshall, what about you, mate? What players would you get out the door?
To be honest with you, Bill, I think you and JP have summed it up pretty well. I think away from that, I'd maybe keep some of the youngsters. I think from the understanding that I get from Moyes is that obviously, you know, he doesn't want any player over the age of 25. I think that was the initial reports. You know, he wanted to build something there, and like a sort of empire, for want of a better word, if you like.
Kind of model.
Yeah, like you know, just based on sort of the youth and obviously giving opportunities. You know, obviously the Premier League is a very difficult league. You know, for me, the best in the world, and we're fortunate heading into this season to be playing in it, I think, and that's where we need to sort of right the wrongs. But, you know, I think there's players clearly sort of treading water. Like, you know, I think, as JP rightly said, you know, play for the badge. You know, you're going to pick up your wage regardless, but put a bit into it. Like, you know, and at West Ham, you know, we're renowned for wanting players, you know, like your Mark Nobles, like your John Moncurs, like your, you know, Rio Ferdinand's, Glenn Johnson's, Joe Cole coming forward, Trevor Sinclair. Show a little bit of want, show a little bit of fight, and the man that's obviously doing that now is Declan Rice, obviously, who is behind all of the speculation, you know, what's going to happen with him moving forward. What I would suggest with that, if it is to be a case that he's going, which obviously I dare say I hope it isn't, but if it is, then, you know, we wouldn't stand in his way. That's where the majority of these funds are coming from in order to buy the replacements. You may be able to get a couple of free players in with that, but then again, dependent on when he's going to go, if he's going to go. But yeah, I, as I say, Roberto, Masuaku, you know, Balbuena, maybe like you said, Cresswell and Frederick, should that be the case, or are they just going to give them a bit more competition, something more to think about? A couple of, you know, Lanzini, Anderson reportedly still in Italy, maybe trying to force the return to Lazio. Hopefully he does. I mean, I feel for him because, you know, if we could have got on the, you know, capacity of the performance that we had in certain games when he decided to show up, he'd be head and shoulders above a lot of the boys that we've got down there at the moment. Lanzini the same. I don't think he's recovered from that injury. When he done the ACL, we've not seen the good side of him. He's not, whether Moyes fancies him or not, he's not been able to sort of cement the starting position as well. So that, you might say, is and like JP said, I think Yarmolenko as well. I think he would have to go, and like you say, that would be the idea. You know, raising as much funds as you can. Obviously, I've seen the Hugh Gill report tonight about Norwich paying $2 million, and, you know, in all fairness, you got to hold out for as much as what you can. You know, 1 minute is 5, then it's 2. I think it's based on appearances or bonuses, goals and assists, or, you know, whatever you want to call it. You know, but you need to get the most out of the players if they are to go, and hopefully West Ham will, and especially with Declan Rice, whatever that situation will be, hopefully they'll screw their loaf and get as much, maybe 70, 80 million, best part of that. I mean, they were talking about Harry Winks for 40 million going to City, or possibly then United for 40 million, as far as I'm concerned, if that's the going rate. And, I documented it on my Twitter account as well, that I believe that Rice should be double that easily. But if that, as I say, if that is to be the case, hopefully it's going to be sooner rather than later, in order to then, be able to go out and chase the Eze, chase the fullbacks, the Rico Henry, that I agree, with Corey, that I've seen some of him as well, and he seems to would be a very good fit for us. But hopefully you'll see the Deadwood and the Passengers sort of being shown the door pretty soon.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes, mate. I mean, I think Yarmolenko, if he was on lower wages, I'd definitely keep him. I think even despite that, I think I'd keep him as a bench player, because he showed that he got a couple of goals in the run-in. I think obviously we sold Ajeti, Roberto Balbuena, I think, can go, Masuaku as well, Hugo. I think you're right, Marshall Lanzini. I think the injuries have cost his physicality, his ability. I think if he can get some money from him, I think he should let him go. I think the one I'm mixed on is Felipe Anderson. I mean, obviously the games during the run-in, I mean, it was woeful when he come on. But I keep thinking back to his first season. Obviously Pellegrini, he scored 9 league goals. I just think if we can get anywhere near that kind of player, but whether he'll get to that level again for West Ham remains to be seen. It'd probably be unlikely. So if we do get a good offer, it might be worth getting rid of him. So Corey, we'll come to you, mate. So in terms of players that need to leave, what are your thoughts?
I think it's a difficult one, mate, because like Marshy and JP have said, it would be just easy to get rid of a lot of them and obviously recoup a load of wages and transfer fees. But unfortunately, I think this market, you're not going to, particularly with these owners as well, even if you sold them, you can't guarantee you're bringing in of any quality. So there are obvious ones. I think Balbuena can leave. I think obviously Roberto can leave. I'm not keen on Masuaku unless he has a positional change and he starts playing either wing back or a backup for left wing. The only ones I'm a bit on the edge about is people like your Lanzini's, Yarmolenko, Anderson. I'm doing a video on Lanzini, and it's probably going to get some stick because I watched some of his games, and obviously since he had that injury, he's clearly not the same player. But ultimately, we're playing in a Moyes system where, as that number 10, you need to press a little bit more. You need to do the dirty work, and Lanzini just doesn't fit that mould. If Lanzini could, in terms of his attitude, maybe make that change, then I think you can still get something out of him. I think it's very similar with Anderson. For me, I think Anderson does better in a 10 role. If you give him a little bit of freedom and you sort of say to him, listen, you've got to press, but ultimately you can pick up the ball from left or right. Maybe you see the best of him. Yarmolenko is a dodgy one because obviously the wages are massively high. But when he comes on, he does cause teams problems in those last 20 minutes because he's got a great shot on him.
That Chelsea goal summed it up for me.
Yeah, no, 100%, mate. Like when the other team's knackered and he can, and he can do what he wants, basically, is if he cuts in on that left foot, it's a goal, or it's at least on target. So I think it's good for us to have that kind of player up our sleeve.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Bill, this is the issue. If we played all our players in the right position, we probably wouldn't be talking about this conversation. We probably wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah,
because this is the thing. I mean, there's Corey. You're absolutely right, mate. With Anderson, he's a number 10, as is Lanzini, as is Fornals. All three of them are being, majority of the time, are being played in their unnatural positions. And then obviously, with the injury list with Yarmolenko and all that sort of stuff. But and of course, Jack Wilshere, which we haven't mentioned at all for that. I'm surprised none of us have mentioned him.
What about him?
We all did. That's the horrible thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do kind of think that if we played to have everybody in their natural positions, I think the conversation would probably be completely different.
Yeah, no, good points. Well, guys, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. We'll have you on another video soon. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're new to the channel, smash that subscribe button. Follow us on the socials. Let us know your comments in the comment section below. Thanks for watching.